Alright, everybody, welcome back to the shop. The little shop of horrors again. Alright, I came out here just so I can get to work with sanding this monster down. I gotta resand the bottom because of everything that lifted. Now, when it was upside down, a good friend of mine, Paul, came over and we were looking at the front and something just didn't look right. And it had to do with the angle that I looked at it from. Is that when this was set up so that you could see vertically down here, and then all of a sudden you looked over here, this corner kicked out. You can kind of see that. Where you go back up, it's even, and then we come straight back and you can see this lower corner. Which makes a person say, so what let me boost up my lights here a little bit. There we go. So pretty much what I had to make some measurements, and when we made the measurements, what we found out, because you can see down here we've got a shim in on this side. What we had is, instead of having right thrust, I think it's supposed to be 0 degrees, but usually on RC planes you put a little bit of right thrust just to counteract the prop wash on the tail, because the prop is going to want to, the wash, the way it comes around the plane, hits the rudder that way, so it makes the plane, the front, want to go that way. So you put a little bit of right in there just to counterbalance it. And I'm going to find out, but I think in real life the Taylorcraft had no down thrust and no right thrust. But anyway, this had 1.3 degrees of left thrust, which is that's just going to be a nightmare. You can see how much throw I've got in that rudder. There almost might have to be that much throw just to counterbalance it in flight. So anyway, I mean, not that much, but so anyway, I needed to figure out about how much I was going to need to offset this. So I'm going to have to make a whole new mounting bracket, and then I'm going to have to slide the whole motor assembly this way, because I already do have everything properly cut out for the cowling. So what I did is I came over here to the quackulator, aka the confuser, and then I want to find out where that's at now, because right now it is we moved it exactly the opposite direction, 1.3. So what I'm going to show you is to find out how much it was. We went to the back of the airplane itself. We went from prop tip to prop tip. I came all the way back here and I measured to here, and I just swept it across to get it so that it was most in tune with the distance. So this side here was, I got to think about this one, 74 5/16 inches. Over here it was 73 13/16, which is exactly a ½ inch. So this side here is a ½ inch in farther than this side, so it is now has right thrust into it. So what I wanted to find out was how much right thrust that ½ inch was, and even though I already gave you the answer, I'm going to show you how to do it. If you come into the scientific calculator on your computer, to find out, you've got to have it so that you're doing it, you're finding the cotangent, which is this little thing right here, of you need to divide the rise by the run and then multiply that by the cotangent, and that's going to give you the answer. So right now we're going to set up so we've got our little, let me clear this. Okay, so now we've got this set up. So we're going to do, so this is part of the formula, because you're going to do the division before you do the multiplication. So we're at a ½ inch, so it's 0.05 or 0.500, we'll just do it that way. And we're going to divide that by the 22 inches. And then we're going to close that parenthesis, so this is giving us, oh, I hope you saw all that. So this is giving you the number that you need to multiply by to get the cotangent. So when I hit the cotangent here, boom. So we are at 1.301, so 1.3 degrees. So right now we've got 1.3 degrees of right thrust. And if I don't hit my head on this again, and I'm going to do a little background research first. I need to find out if that's going to be enough just for me, because then once I find that, then it's going to probably be the rest of today, because I got everything else done. I'll show you what I got done real quick. I've got to take the firewall mount off. I've got to go ahead and make measurements on exactly where I think it needs to be, and then I'm going to have to make a whole new firewall mount, because I've got to have that angle already built into it. So it's going to be a fun little block to build. I may be able to work with the block I've got right now and just add to it. But you know, we'll see how well that's going to go. I think I can make it work, so I'm hoping I can make it work. All right, here's how I made the measurements. I just got done measuring the other side, so I'll kind of show you how I went about doing it, because I wanted to get these things set up so that it's not 100% accurate, but we know what's going on. So here's how I measured things out. I came in for the back. I used this because it was 10 inches high, and as lo and behold, this up here was 10 inches high. So that worked out very nicely. So this ended up being for the top mark. So that was the distance from here, and I came 9 inches out just so I had room to clear. And there's a little bit of flexibility in it, but I relaxed the flexibility when I took measurements. I just didn't pull it tight and do it. So it went from here all the way to the top of this one, and then the same thing with the bottom. And then I switched everything over. Sorry about that. Switched everything over to the other side, and here are the numbers I came up with. And this is just showing you where the problem's at. All right, this is the left-hand side of the plane. For the front, the upper part of the firewall, back to the measuring point, 3.75 inches. So it's 57 3/8. On the bottom, it was 57 but in a quarter inch. So that's fine. So on this side, it's showing you that it's already got the relief set up for a little bit of down thrust in it. That's fine. That makes me happy. That doesn't bother me at all. Then we come over to the other side, and the top was really close. This was sorry about this, 57 3/8. This was 57 5/16, 3/8, 7/16. So it's only a 1/16 of an inch out of skew where it should be if you had zero left or right thrust. But the bottom was huge. Instead of this one decreased by a 1/8 of an inch, 375, yeah, 1/8 of an inch. This one increased by 3/16 of an inch. So that's where the problem is. That's that flare out that I told you about. That was the thing that we saw by looking on the side. So this is going to be getting moved over this way a little bit. I don't know how critical this is going to be on this corner for what it's going to want to do to the engine. So what I'll probably do is when I cut my first piece out, because it will be flat, I'll bring it in here, because we can see with this right now, it'll rock. So I'm going to come in, because I got to pull all this stuff out and plug the holes. That's why I sketched around it, because I got to figure out how far I need to move this over. So this is where it's going to get really fun, not for me or you. Okay, after a long aggravating day of finding stuff you never want to find, here's where it's at. Right now, it is sitting, I've got it set up, it's sitting at 2 degrees of right thrust. That was with the numbers I had. It came out at exactly, this was what I needed, 3/4 of an inch. And the close side, or the right side, was at 73 3/4. The near side here was at 74 1/2. There's my 3/4 of an inch, so I'm at 2 degrees. So what I opted in for was, seeing that I was making this piece, and I shaved a lot off on it. I ended up putting a 3mm spacer on the back of it to make up for what I took off. So that'll actually should be making me sit proud. You know, very little, but it's gonna, it might put this out in front by another, 1/64 of an inch, so it's not gonna hurt me. What I did was I put in 1 degree of down thrust on it, and it's kind of hard to see it. you have to line it up with the horizontal stabilizer on the back, and it's going to be kind of hard to see, but that's, so I do have 1 degree of down, 2 degrees of right, and what I've got to do is, this is how far I've got to shift it over. I've got to shift it over. It ended up measuring out, I mic'd it, and it ended up, excuse me, I used my digital calipers. It ended up being 142 thousandths. That was the space, so I needed to move that over half that distance. So I needed to move it over 71 and a half thousandths. I ended up moving it over, so it's about 72 thousandths is where the line is. And once this gets over and gets drilled in, it's going to be, you know, side to side a little bit. But when you put these in, there is a little bit of play, enough wiggle room. So my thing is, right now it looks like I'm still good with the down. I may have to shuffle this a little bit. So I'm going to have to, the only way I'm going to find out how well it's going to fit with the down, because when I was putting the cowling on to test it, it looked decent enough on the height still. But until I get all 3 screws attached, I can't tell. Because if you come in on the top, and I have the top set in, it needs to come down. Let's see. See, this side still needs to come in, and I can't get this attached. So what I'm probably going to have to do is I'm probably going to have to do the same thing, because we're hitting this side over here. So I think I'm probably going to have to raise this up the 70 thousandths as well. So what I'll do is, because this side's looking pretty good actually, on this side for height. If I don't throw stuff on the ground. So anyway, I'm going to see if I can get this on before I go. So I'll just kind of give you a heads up of where we're at. I just got to figure out how much I need to raise this up, because if I drop it down, I got to raise the motor mount up. So let me find out what I got to do on that. This is not getting done tonight. I'm calling it a day. And then, well, like I said, I've got everything else ready to go, so it's just going to be a matter of coming down, drilling the holes, putting plugs in where the little T-nuts were at. So once I get the, sorry about that, I'm trying to put this thing back in the stand. There we go. So once I get the, once I get those holes drilled, put the T-nuts in, then I'll attach it. I'm not going to put all 4 in at once. I'll probably just put 2 in. I may just do diagonals, just to see how well it's going to sit and that everything's going to go on, because if I end up having to plug 2 holes and re-drilling 2 holes again, you know, it's only 2 holes. If I end up doing, you know, all 4, and I've got to, because I don't like doing that, because every time you do it, you kind of, you almost compromise the firewall. I mean, I already had to move 2 of them when I found out the guy put everything in there wrong. So, and then his fate rears its ugly head as usual with this job. Gets moved again. So anyway, that's about it. That's about it for the day. It was a long day of not really seemingly doing much, but it's still, you know, you get a big problem, you got to take care of it. So I will see you probably Tuesday when I'm back down in the shop, working on the engine. Okay, here's what I need to do, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this, because it's something that it's an easy enough, if you got a bandsaw and a caliper, I'm telling you, it's easy enough to make your own dowels. You can make a jig fixture and screw it through it. If you look on YouTube, there's guys that have things set up. It's a piece of wood with just it's like a piece of sharp metal through it, like a cutting edge, and they'll spin it through, and it'll come out to be the size. If you don't want to take the time to do that, to plug the holes on the firewall, the holes are 300 thousandths of an inch. So what I did is I took some stock that was thicker, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Even though I've already got the last piece ready to cut, I'm going to cut this edge off, and I'll show you how to do it. So anyway, so what you're doing is you're measuring the outside of this. This is 4 1/4, 425 thousandths. It was what the measurement on this was. I need to make a 300 thousandths plug So what you do is it's pretty simple. Let's see if my little scribbles will show up okay. 425 thousandths, and I need to have it down to 300 thousandths. That gives me 125 thousandths that needs to be removed. So you go ahead and you divide that into two. So I need to take 63 thousandths off of each side. That is tough to try to shave that off on a bandsaw. So what you end up doing is you take that 60, got to get this right, the 63 thousandths, and add it to the 300. So what you do is you set your mic or your caliper 365 thousandths. I'm going to lock that in. And there's where it gets noisy. What I'm doing is the little backstop. I come in and I measure this from the backstop to the opposite side, to the other side of that blade. It's 363 thousandths. So now I'm going to cut this piece off, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you. What you do is you put it sideways. So you hold it firm and go in slowly with it. And very slowly just start shaving it off as you rotate it around. Assuming nothing backfires on me, this edge is cut. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to take this, so I have no idea how good it is, so we'll put it in the caliper and we're going to go ahead and spin this up, and we are a little bit over. We're about 308, 309 thousandths. That's really close. Now you might have, let me move stuff out of the way so I'll knock it over. The tolerance on these are a little bit loose on the 300 side. So this is the piece I just cut. This side here slides right in. That was the side that was done before. This is the side that was just cut. And it just slides right in. So all I'm going to do, just want to make sure it's not sticking out. Go ahead and I stick it through the hole, take a pencil, mark off how deep it is. Because I'm just doing this with super glue. I'm not mixing epoxy for it. And I'll take the super glue, and seeing that I've already made my mark, that's as much. I don't want it sticking proud of the other side. So I'll go ahead, put a little bit of thick CA on one side, and then I'll come in over here and I'll put one drop down the bottom. So that way as I spin this in, it's going to spread the glue all over the whole inside surface of that. So it's on. A little bit of kicker. And get this stuff on Amazon. Stick fast. It's cheaper than the stuff you're going to get at the hobby shop, and it's some ladies use this manicurists for putting fingernails on for a kicker. This stuff is just done through a company that sells stick fast products, but that's where I get it from. And with shipping, because I'm a Prime member, I get free shipping. That's about, I think, $12 or $13 for a 12.5 ounce can. So, and this will last you about a year, if not more. All right, so that's set up, and I just need to find my little tool of destruction. Then I just zip this off. And now I just have to sand these things down so it's smooth. I'll glue that piece on, and then I'll go ahead and drill my holes, and we'll do the test piece, and I'll bring you back with the hopes that everything's going to fit well. Alright, this is after the fact. It's the video from me fixing this. When I was editing the video, I decided I want to show you guys the way that I should have done it, not the way that I did it. Because in the video it came over, and I'm going to probably edit this part out of the video, but on the video it said come on in, and then the way that I decided how much this needed to be moved over, somehow I came up with 75 thousandths of an inch. And because it was, you know, over a week ago, I have no idea how I came up with that number. What I really should have done, because when I made the measurements, finding the arc tangent, not the cotangent, I wish I'd stopped saying cotangent, find the arc tangent of this angle in regards to, because I don't even know if I covered it in the video. Here's where I indicated from. I indicated from the hinge line way back here, because when I was rebuilding the fuselage on it, I've got a mark up here in the center, the very center of the fuselage, all the way to the back. So I know that this is my straight line to the center, and this hinge line is set up 90 degrees to that, and that was a measured 90 degrees. So that is what I indicated off of to get the proper, the angle and the twist that was in that firewall. And what I had done was, and this is something else I wish I said too, but that's why I'm doing this now. My little 90 degree block, my measuring stand I had set up back here, I made measurements from the rudder line, from the vertical stabilizer. That was how I knew that I had that at the same distance away from the front of the plane, was by measuring from another known point from the back the same distance out. So that way I knew that I had that little block the same distance from side to side. And that's something I need to, next video I do, it's going to be a new plane. It's going to be a new plane build, not a 1+ year restoration, because this is just it's a learning process for everybody. But anyway, so when you come across this side over here is just shy of 3/6. It's just shy. Let's see. Let me do this in metric just because it's going to make it easier for me. It's about 5 millimeters, which 3 millimeters is an 1/8 inch, so it's going to be pretty close to 3/16 of an inch. Now, what I should have done, and this is just, it would have gotten me closer the first time, because I spent hours trying to get this piece in, because it took, like I said, it took me 3 attempts. So anyway, you're not going to have a really good view on this. Let me see if I can raise this up higher and get you in a different location. And it looks like I'm losing battery power in my overhead light here. I am. Let me beam some more down with this doggy. Why are you not coming on? It's not plugged in. Alright, anyway. One moment, please. Not an earthquake, you're just getting a new battery. And hopefully it's charged. Yeah! Alright, that's better. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a mark, and it's going to be a tough way to make a mark because I got to try to do everything. I need another hand. Alright, so because I can't find my little adjustable square, I got to use one of the wooden ones that I made. It's a little too long. So this here is just a standoff, and I know that the edges are parallel because I cut it. So that's. So anyway, what I will do is I would come across here, make sure that this is sitting up plumb against the new motor mount, and then I come in with this and go up and push on it until it hits the firewall. And I'm just going to come in and scribe a little teeny marker line right there. So that, because of the angle, to have this end up in the same position it is now, because I changed the angle of this, I just need to slide it over that much. That should be a good indicator, and that would have been a good place to start. So once again, I was 5 millimeters, 5 millimetrics on this side, and on this side we're about 4.5. So that is actually And that would have been a good way to start, because a 1/2 millimeter I could have worked with, because there is a little bit of movement you can work with on this. So, you know, once again, you know, we live, we learn, and experience comes from failure, and I should say, yes, success comes from experience, and experience comes from failure. So, yeah, so now I know how to do this in the future, and hopefully those that are watching, you got a good idea on how to do it too. But this was a multi-step process. Just because, you know, everybody's been watching this, you know how much of a mess this plane was when I first started with it, and everything I get to work with, because had I built this plane myself, they wouldn't have these problems from the start or now. So anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to put this together so I can go back upstairs and finish editing that video, and then I don't know, I go back to painting. I got the wings painted. So, I'll show you. Might as well throw it at the end of this one. So this wing here is done, and it's pretty tightened up. And when you have little hairs in it, once everything kind of starts softening up a little bit, a lot of times if you just come over with your finger and just give it a nudge, it'll just pop off. So this one's looking pretty good. It'll lost that battery pack too. I'm not doing good. I'm failing. So oh, I'm blue. Check that out. So anyway, I'll this is the day where I got the new paint. So I'll just piece that in with that video. But anyway, yeah. So I just got to figure out, once I get those things finalized, how I'm going to paint. But I think I'm just going to paint the whole fuselage. I'm hoping I'm going to have enough paint. It takes about two-thirds of a can to paint one wing top. I've got one more wing top to paint. So between this, I'll have about two-thirds of a can left after on this one, and that gives me three and a half, something like that, cans to spray the fuselage all over again. So I think I'll do that, and if I've got to go get another can, I know where to get it from, because they've got it in stock over at Ace Hardware. So regardless, I think it's going to get 3 coats, and then once I get the coats on this one, because I'll paint this one, it won't be today, it'll be next week, because I do have the whole week off next week. So I will get this all painted, and then hopefully have it striped with the because I got a week's worth of work of vacation time. I got to work on this one, so I want to see if I can get the bursts painted on, and the checkers on the bottom of the wing that goes from pretty much the wing strut mount out to the out close to the wingtip, all the way back through. It's pretty much the aileron itself. I'll show you on the plane. I'll show you on the wing, because I'll forget by then. But right here, oh, it's still a little tacky. I don't want to hold my finger out too long. Right here is the mount for the wing strut. So from probably about here out to here. So this span from here to here is going to be checkerboard patterns, and there's 4 of them. It goes 4. I'm gonna have to look at that one. I think it was two rows of 4 and 2 rows of 3. So you know, so that's 4 of them. So I'm gonna have to figure that one out. I know how I'm gonna paint them. I've had to paint those before. You'll do the opposite. So you're not going to do them all at once, where it's not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll do the first and the third row, and then the second and the fourth row. That way you can get all the corners to match up the way it's supposed to go. And so you know, it's not that big of a deal. So anyway, all right, I'm going to throw you back up in the stand, take this video card out of here, and go run upstairs and finish editing a video and charge light batteries, so I've got more light. So see you next time I'm back down here messing around. falling apart.